If he really felt the way he says he felt about his family, that this is this older institution, he compares his father and brother's life to being in jail or trapped in a cage when he talked to Oprah Winfrey, then why would you set your child up for that by insisting they have a title?
Exactly.
Harry's presence in Britain is always a problem. That's the issue. Harry and Meghan and Harry are dynamite together.
Harry is deeply unpopular, and he has been whining about security for 5 years in a manner that does not endear him to anyone.
That's the whole point. They want to be treated as royals. And that is the one thing they were told you can't do. You can't be inside or outside, just choose. So I think if Ravik decided to give them a royal protection, that would be a terrible, terrible mistake.
The headlines make it sound like Prince Harry is finally getting exactly what he wanted, but the details tell a much messier story. With another UK appearance approaching and the 2027 Invictus Games getting closer, the security dispute surrounding Harry is once again taking centre stage. And despite reports suggesting the situation is nearly settled, even comments linked to the Sussex camp appear to suggest that no major change has actually happened. That is where this controversy gets interesting. Harry is expected to travel to Birmingham in July for an event marking 1 year until the 2027 Invictus Games. This is not the main competition itself. It is a countdown event designed to build attention ahead of the Games. But the visit has already become wrapped up in the same argument that has followed Harry for years: security arrangements for himself and his family.
So here's where the media headlines are getting really squirrely. This is not a win for Harry. This is not a reversal of his clear, decisive legal defeats. It is simply a reassessment for security that has been conducted for the first time in about 5 years.
Some reports have painted the situation as a major breakthrough for Harry, suggesting that restoring stronger police protection is now almost guaranteed. But according to commentary surrounding the Sussexes, their own spokesperson reportedly indicated that they were not aware of any meaningful change in the security situation. That creates a pretty awkward contradiction. On one side, the public is seeing confident headlines suggesting Harry has practically won his battle. On the other side, people connected to Harry and Meghan appear far more cautious. That difference has led critics to question whether the positive reports are getting ahead of reality or whether someone is trying to create public pressure before any final decision has been made. The bigger issue is what Harry is actually asking for. Harry can reportedly receive armed police protection during certain UK visits when officials decide the circumstances and threat level justify it. However, critics argue that Harry wants something much closer to guaranteed protection whenever he returns to Britain. And that is where the debate gets complicated. Supporters of Harry believe his position is understandable because of his public profile, his family connections, and the attention surrounding Meghan and their children. Critics see the situation very differently. They argue that Harry stepped away from life as a working royal, so expecting security arrangements similar to those provided automatically to senior working royals creates an obvious conflict.
To be a little bit more specific and clear here, Harry lost his legal challenges to the process used by Ravik. The press is framing the current situation as a win, which is problematic, only because he is ultimately achieving his goal of getting police protection, but he is going about it through administrative channels rather than the...
He contacted the Ravik offices the way it is right now, 28 days notice, itinerary, we determine on a case-by-case basis exactly what you need. If the man says, my wife and children will be accompanying me, don't you believe that Ravik would be like, yes, you will have armed guard?
Harry has also repeatedly raised concerns about bringing Meghan and their children to Britain without security arrangements he considers sufficient. According to his public position, this is about protecting his family. But critics have accused him of using their absence to increase pressure on the royal family and British authorities. That claim remains an interpretation, not a proven fact. Still, the timing adds another layer to the drama. Beyond the security dispute, there has been continuing speculation about whether King Charles could eventually appear alongside Harry at the 2027 Invictus Games. For Harry, such an appearance could become much bigger than a royal photo opportunity. It could be viewed as a public sign that relations between father and son are improving after years of tension, interviews, legal disputes, and deeply personal accusations.
Everyone just looked at each other with utter disgust. The words expressed to my source were, "We can't say too much, but Meghan was incapable of fitting in with anyone because she couldn't cope with following simple rules as she felt her way was better."
He didn't have the balls to say, "No, I will not let you speak about my family that way, no matter how mad I am." And I think a lot of people see that and have that value of like, I don't really care what personal drama or fighting is going on. I still wouldn't want someone deliberately trying to ruin my brother or sister or parents' life or reputation or image in the public eye.
But there is no guarantee that moment will happen. Right now, Harry appears caught between two battles. He wants security arrangements that he believes will allow his family to return safely, while also facing continued questions about whether his relationship with the royal family can ever fully recover. And with the Birmingham countdown event approaching, the contradiction remains impossible to ignore. Reports suggest progress. Harry's position appears unchanged, and the security dispute is still hanging over everything. But the security argument becomes even more controversial when you look at the incidents being used to support it. One particular encounter involving Prince Harry quickly became a major talking point. Yet instead of convincing everyone that his concerns were justified, it triggered a wave of skepticism and questions about what actually happened. During a UK charity visit, reports claimed that a woman described as a stalker managed to get unusually close to Harry on 2 separate occasions. The incident was presented as evidence that Harry could face genuine security risks whenever he returns to Britain.
And the only other time he's ever said he was in danger was, I think...
A fan.
A fan, yes.
A fan.
Exactly. So, you know...
It has pictures of him and Meghan on the internet, yeah.
There's only be a motive if he promotes himself.
Lone stalker, which is kind of funny that this is the reason why this has been reinstated. He must be very scared of this lady. It's very common for famous people and public figures to deal with a stalker occasionally. And this seems to be the only justification to really reconsider and approve automatic protection for Harry.
But critics immediately started digging into the details. Some questioned whether the woman was really an unknown threat at all. Online commentary suggested she may have previously appeared around supporters of Harry and Meghan, with claims that she had even been photographed with them before. Those claims have fueled suspicion, but they should still be treated carefully because public speculation does not automatically prove the woman's identity, intentions, or connection to the Sussexes. Still, one major question kept coming back. If authorities believed she posed a serious danger, why did the situation apparently not lead to criminal charges? That question became even louder because Harry's security concerns have been debated alongside other stories about him moving around Britain without obvious problems.
Of course, she uses the children to control Harry, like divorced parents often do. She has Harry terrified that if the kids met their relatives, they would like them or love them or want to go back.
Reports have described occasions when Harry was seen travelling privately and interacting with ordinary people without the kind of major security incident critics might expect. To skeptics, that creates an uncomfortable contradiction. They argue that Harry cannot be presented as facing an extreme threat every moment he enters Britain, while also appearing capable of moving around the country with limited public attention. Supporters push back, saying danger does not have to appear every single day to be credible. A person can move around safely several times and still face a serious threat during another visit. And that distinction matters. Because recently, the wider conversation around royal security became more serious after a separate incident near Sandringham reportedly involved a masked intruder carrying a crowbar. The situation was connected in media coverage to the ongoing controversy surrounding Prince Andrew. And unlike the disputed claims surrounding Harry's encounter, this incident gave critics and supporters something much more concrete to discuss.
It's the way that is calculated is there a threat?
Right.
And there's no threat to Meghan or her children. They've never shown a threat. The only threat has been that they'll be photographed by paparazzi, which is, of course, what they want.
Well, which is what Meghan does 24 hours a day in the house.
Exactly. And then summons people to spot her at a restaurant or somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think, on the contrary, I think they won't allow them to abuse the system.
I personally think that he's blowing this a little bit out of proportion. Yes, I certainly do. Like I said, I get stalkers can be deeply unpleasant for famous people to deal with, but she didn't have any weapons. She didn't have any crazed ideations. It doesn't look like the threat is ongoing. However, Harry was sure to publicize these incidents. He leaked it to the press that this happened twice and the extent to which this woman got close to him, and lots of details were made public about it from Harry's team.
Suddenly, the argument was no longer simply about whether Harry was exaggerating his concerns. Even some commentators who have strongly criticised the Duke of Sussex began acknowledging that members of the royal family, including those no longer serving as working royals, can face genuine security risks because of their public status. That does not automatically mean Harry should receive every security arrangement he has requested. But it does make the debate harder to dismiss. And this is where critics believe the conversation gets strategically complicated. Separate incidents with very different circumstances can easily become blended together in the public debate. A disputed encounter involving an alleged stalker gets discussed alongside a more concrete security incident near a royal residence. And suddenly, the entire argument appears stronger than either case might look when examined individually. Supporters of Harry would argue that this broader pattern proves unpredictable threats can emerge at any moment. Critics see something else. They believe serious incidents involving other members of the royal family are being used to strengthen Harry's personal security argument, even when the circumstances are not directly connected.
The real interest is how low can they go and when will it all explode or implode?
Yeah.
And that's really why I'm fascinated by it, because I think that, the manipulation of the media by them,
Yes.
by the constant drip of we've got to be recognized, we want people to write about us, but we don't want it to be our privacy to be invaded, is just priceless. And they are the victims of their own dishonesty. That is what is so fascinating.
The result is a security debate where confirmed events, disputed claims, public fear, and media speculation are becoming increasingly difficult to separate. And the more these different incidents are grouped together, the harder it becomes to determine exactly where legitimate protection concerns end and the battle over Harry's royal status begins. And this is where the security controversy takes an even sharper turn. Because once you separate the emotional headlines from the legal history, critics argue that Prince Harry's biggest problem may not be the system itself, but the way he chose to challenge it. The timeline matters here. When Harry and Meghan stepped away from their roles as senior working royals in 2020, their security arrangements changed. Harry no longer received the same automatic level of publicly funded police protection he had while carrying out official royal duties. Instead, his visits to Britain became subject to individual assessments based on factors such as the circumstances of the trip and the level of risk involved. Harry strongly disagreed with that arrangement.
It'd be a motive if he promotes himself. And after all, he's the man who said he killed 25 Taliban, which he didn't have to do. He's the man who boasted he killed. He doesn't know if it was 25 or 30 and how many innocents died too. So what does he want? He brings it on himself and then says, now protect me.
And he lost that case, he appealed it, and he lost the appeal in spring 2025, leaving him with no other further legal action possible to take. That was the full end of the story. He cannot sue again, basically. And it's worth noting at this point that the threats that Harry and his family potentially or allegedly face are nowhere near as serious or constant as the working royals, King Charles, the monarch, Prince William, and his family, and all the direct heirs, for very obvious reasons.
He launched a legal challenge against the decision-making process, arguing that the system had treated him unfairly and that the protection available to him and his family was not sufficient. The courts ultimately rejected his challenge, and Harry later lost his appeal as well. But critics say there is another detail that deserves far more attention. According to commentary surrounding the case, Harry could still seek updated assessments through the existing security review process when circumstances changed. The controversial argument is that he allegedly did not pursue that route in the way critics believe he could have while his legal battle was continuing. And that creates a complicated situation. If Harry had actively relied on the same process his legal team was challenging, critics argue that it could have weakened the broader message behind his case. After all, it becomes harder to argue that a system is fundamentally unfair while simultaneously asking that same system to reconsider your situation through its ordinary procedures. Supporters of Harry would likely reject the idea that this proves he created his own problem. They could argue that using a process and challenging whether that process is fair are not necessarily contradictory. Still, critics see the situation very differently. They argue that years of public frustration, courtroom battles, and accusations of unfair treatment could have been avoided if Harry had focused earlier on working within the existing review process instead of trying to defeat it through legal action. And if a future assessment eventually grants Harry stronger protection, that outcome could create another uncomfortable debate. Supporters may view it as proof that Harry's concerns were justified. Critics may argue the exact opposite, that the system was capable of responding to changing circumstances once the proper review process was used. Either way, the controversy is far from simple.
Ultimately, from my perspective, this just proves that Ravik and the Home Office were never operating in a biased way. It only proves Harry wrong and shows that had he not invested all that time and expense in his petty, silly, ridiculous, entitled legal battles, he could have had this stuff reassessed every single year and may have had this very thing occur, this very same outcome, much earlier. His primary goal at that time was a judicial review because he wanted the public to see, or he wanted to be validated in his feelings that it was an unlawful and procedurally unfair decision. Requesting a fresh review while simultaneously suing to prove the first review was illegal would have been legally contradictory. His team focused on overturning the 2020 policy entirely rather than asking to be evaluated under that policy each year.
But while the security dispute continues to dominate royal headlines, another situation involving Meghan Markle sparked criticism for a completely different reason. Meghan recently shared an image involving the newborn child of a close friend. The baby's face was visible, and Meghan reportedly added a playful caption joking about her affection for red hair and clarifying that the child was not Harry's. The joke immediately divided opinion. Some people saw it as harmless humour between close friends and argued that the child's parents may have approved the image before it was shared publicly. Others were far less comfortable. Critics questioned whether a newborn baby should be placed in front of a massive public audience at all, especially when the image was paired with a joke involving marriage and possible romantic betrayal. To them, the issue was not simply whether the caption was funny. It was about privacy, boundaries, and the difference between sharing your own family moments and sharing someone else's child with millions of people. There is no public evidence that Meghan posted the photograph without the parents' permission, so claims that she deliberately violated their privacy would go beyond what is known. But the controversy still reveals something bigger. For a couple that has repeatedly spoken about media intrusion, privacy, and protecting their own children from intense public attention, critics believe Meghan's decision opened the door to accusations of inconsistency. And once that accusation started spreading, the conversation quickly moved beyond one photograph and into a much larger debate about how Harry and Meghan handle privacy when the cameras are focused on someone else. And that privacy debate only became more heated once people started focusing on the joke attached to the newborn photo. For many critics, the problem was not simply that Meghan Markle shared an image of her friend's baby. It was the decision to turn that moment into a joke about paternity, marriage, and Prince Harry. Think about how many people were pulled into one caption. The baby's parents became part of the joke. Harry became part of the joke. and a newborn child was suddenly placed in front of a massive online audience while strangers debated whether the post was funny, inappropriate, or completely unnecessary. But the strongest criticism centered on something Meghan has spoken about many times: protecting children online.
Finds it funny, Meghan, for very obvious reasons. Because we do know the truth about your sordid life. Princess Carparkle writing, I promise you nobody thought that. She's with Kelly's Ashfen's baby and still had to make it about herself. Meghan Markle, you are so weird. Like, don't worry you all, Harry didn't get my friend pregnant. What is wrong with...
Here we have a woman who has ultimately been given scripts that have been written for her. She has gone to Geneva with the World Health Organization and absolutely talked about things she does not know about. And she's not really bothered about it, Dan, is she? Because if this was a woman that was worried about children's faces being in the public domain, she would not let her friend put that picture out there. Now, yes, it was on Meghan's Instagram, but even if Kelly had said, I want you to do it, you would say, no, this is really something that I'm passionate about.
Meghan and Harry have frequently discussed digital safety, privacy, and the potential risks children face on social media. They have also generally kept Archie and Lilibet away from constant public exposure, sometimes sharing carefully selected images without clearly showing their faces. That is why critics immediately accused Meghan of applying different standards. If protecting children from unnecessary online attention is an important principle, they asked, why share a clear image of someone else's newborn with millions of followers? There is no confirmed evidence that the parents objected to the photograph being shared. They may have been completely comfortable with it. But critics argue that permission does not automatically settle the broader question of consistency. To them, a public campaign about children's online safety should also influence personal decisions about posting children, especially newborns who obviously cannot understand or consent to becoming part of a global conversation. And the family's reported history made the criticism even more emotional. Reports have suggested that Meghan's friend previously experienced the loss of a child. Because of that background, some commentators felt that turning a new baby announcement into a joke involving paternity was particularly insensitive.
It's a very big deal, Lauren, for someone married to a royal to acknowledge publicly rumours of affairs. I mean, that's something that Prince Charles and Princess Diana didn't acknowledge for a very long time, yet here is Meghan acknowledging those rumours as if it's some type of throwaway joke. In an Instagram post, it's almost as if, Lauren, she is encouraging this speculation.
Others defended Meghan, saying close friends often share private humour that outsiders may misunderstand. But once a joke is posted publicly, it is no longer private. Another detail quickly attracted attention. Meghan herself introduced the idea of Harry possibly being the father, even if the comment was clearly intended as humour. Before that caption appeared, there was no major public debate about the baby's parentage. Critics argue that Meghan created unnecessary speculation by mentioning the subject herself, and that opened another uncomfortable discussion. Some people began comparing the visibility of her friend's baby with the privacy surrounding Archie and Lilibet. That does not justify unsupported theories about Harry and Meghan's children, and speculation about minors should never be presented as fact. Still, critics questioned why Meghan appeared comfortable displaying another family's newborn while keeping her own children largely protected from similar attention. Then, only days earlier, another social media post had already triggered accusations of mixed messaging. A Father's Day promotion reportedly featured an elaborate breakfast tray with pastries, butter, strawberry spread, herbal tea, and decorative flowers.
Thanks to Dad, says the woman who cut her own father out of her life, denied him the chance to meet his son-in-law, and never allowed him to know his grandchildren. Now she wants to lecture the rest of us about celebrating Father's Day. The hypocrisy is staggering.
Some viewers mocked the presentation as overly staged and argued that it seemed more like carefully designed lifestyle content than a spontaneous family moment. But the bigger criticism was not about breakfast, it was about Meghan publicly celebrating fatherhood while her relationship with her own father, Thomas Markle, remains deeply strained. Thomas has publicly discussed their estrangement and has said he has never met Prince Harry or his grandchildren. The full private history behind that family conflict is not publicly known, so it would be unfair to claim that one person alone is responsible. Even so, critics see a major contradiction. They argue that presenting polished messages about appreciating fathers naturally invites questions about Meghan's own unresolved relationship with hers. Supporters may say those situations are completely separate, and that difficult family relationships cannot be reduced to social media posts. But critics believe the pattern is becoming harder to ignore. Strong public messages about privacy, children, and family values, followed by personal decisions that appear, at least to some observers, to challenge those same principles. And the criticism does not stop with family posts or social media decisions. Another controversy follows Harry and Meghan, wherever high-profile charity work, international visits, and major public events collide with questions about money, publicity, and who actually benefits from all that attention.
The vice president who invited her, which is described in the book, was angry too because she expected the Sussexes to leave a large sum of money for charity, and they left, I think, something like $7,000 or $8,000. Yeah. I mean, pathetic for a drum set.
I mean, Meghan's literally wearing like a $7,000 shirt in one of her latest AI posts about Shop My Closet.
Critics point to several overseas visits as examples. When Harry and Meghan travelled to Colombia, they were invited by Vice President Francia Marquez for a visit focused on issues including digital safety, culture, and community projects. But afterward, commentary emerged questioning what the host country and local organisations actually gained from the enormous attention surrounding the Sussexes. Some reports and critics claimed that expectations surrounding charitable support were much higher than the financial contributions eventually associated with the visit. Similar questions appeared after Harry and Meghan travelled to Nigeria. The visit generated international headlines and included discussions connected to the Invictus Games. Critics later argued that expectations were raised about Nigeria possibly playing a larger role in the future of Invictus, but that those hopes did not develop in the way some supporters expected.
Did the same in the Nigerian tour. I think they gave $11,000 to some charity and, of course, promised that the Invictus Games would be in Nigeria, and they weren't, and that really annoyed the organisers. So they're not invited anymore.
The exact financial figures and private expectations surrounding these visits remain disputed. So claims that organisers were deliberately misled should not be presented as proven facts. But the criticism reveals a larger concern. Detractors believe organisations invite Harry and Meghan because their fame can bring global attention to important causes. The problem, according to those critics, is that coverage sometimes becomes focused almost entirely on the couple, instead of the communities, veterans and charities the visits were meant to highlight. And nowhere is that criticism louder than around the Invictus Games. The Games were created to celebrate wounded, injured and sick service members and veterans through international sporting competition. For many participants and families, the event remains deeply meaningful. However, critics have questioned whether the growing celebrity atmosphere surrounding Invictus is distracting from its original mission.
The wheelchair competition, which I watched, between America and Nigeria, the American team were professional coach team. And they all wheeled themselves onto the court, as did the Nigerians. None of the Americans had a physical disability. They all had all their limbs. They beat the Nigerians 24-0 because they were a professionally coached team. And then they wheeled themselves off into an adjoining area. Now, the 100 spectators in the 2,000 spectator auditorium didn't see what happened next, which I did. I looked over and they all got up and walked.
Accounts from attendees and commentators have described large numbers of volunteers, competitors, family members, staff, and guests attending recent games. Some critics questioned attendance levels at certain events and argued that the scale of hospitality and production costs deserves closer public examination. There have also been controversial claims about classifications and eligibility involving some competitors. Those claims require careful context. Adaptive sporting events include participants with a wide range of injuries and health conditions, many of which are not immediately visible. Suggesting that competitors are not legitimately injured simply because they can stand or walk would be misleading and unfair. Still, questions about presentation and publicity have not disappeared. Critics argue that expensive opening ceremonies, celebrity performers, designer clothing and constant media attention surrounding Meghan can sometimes overshadow the veterans themselves. One recurring accusation is that coverage rises dramatically when Meghan attends and then drops once she leaves. That does not prove the Invictus Games exist to promote Meghan's personal brand. But critics believe the organisation has become too dependent on celebrity attention to generate headlines, creating a difficult balance between attracting publicity and keeping the focus on competitors.
Gets up, and Meghan immediately gets up and gives him a kiss in front of the cameras because it's Meghan's show. What is Meghan going to do? Well, on that occasion, they went up then to Whistler, and she then disappeared because she had a crisis over her copyright of her products.
American Riviera Orchard.
Exactly. And nobody covered the games anymore.
Meghan's literally wearing like a $7,000 shirt in one of her latest AI posts about Shop My Closet. I couldn't believe that she would wear such expensive clothes.
And always in front of impoverished victims of terrible violence, totally tone deaf.
Financial speculation has also circulated online, including allegations about missing or unexplained funds. There is no established evidence presented here proving that Harry, Meghan, or Invictus officials personally misused millions of dollars, so those accusations should not be stated as fact. Questions about financial transparency are legitimate when supported by reliable evidence. Unsupported claims of wrongdoing are something very different, and that distinction matters because the strongest criticism facing Harry and Meghan may not come from newspapers, royal insiders, or palace officials. It comes from people who once supported their causes but now believe the attention surrounding the couple is becoming bigger than the organisations they were supposed to help. But beyond the lawsuits, social media controversies, charity disputes, and royal headlines, there is a much more personal question hanging over this entire story. What happens when Archie and Lilibet grow older and begin making their own decisions about the family history surrounding them? Right now, they are children, and they should not be blamed for decisions made by adults. Still, critics often wonder how they may eventually view their limited relationship with the wider royal family.
The specialness of the royal family, the castles, the beautiful grounds, the beautiful homes, the beautiful jewels, the rich history, all of it is only going to become more and more appealing with time. And if I put myself in like a child's shoes who grows up and then learns many, many years later just how special their childhood could have been, and the fact that Harry and Meghan try to manipulate this as...
They have relatives in Britain, including cousins, an uncle, an aunt, and King Charles, their grandfather. They are also connected by birth to an institution with centuries of history. But most of their lives have been spent in California, far away from regular royal life. Some commentators have suggested that Meghan deliberately keeps the children away from Britain because she fears they could form close relationships with their royal relatives. There is no reliable evidence proving that claim. Decisions involving where children live, travel, and spend time with extended family can be extremely complicated, especially when security concerns, family disagreements, and intense public attention are involved. The more interesting contradiction, critics argue, involves Harry's own words about royal life. Harry has publicly described feeling trapped within the royal system and has spoken about the pressure, isolation, and emotional difficulties he experienced while growing up inside the monarchy. So critics ask a simple question. If Harry believes royal life caused him so much pain, why has he continued to recognise the royal titles of Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet?
He compares his father and brother's life to being in jail or trapped in a cage. When he talked to Oprah Winfrey, then why would you set your child up for that by insisting they have a title?
Exactly.
We wouldn't have had any privacy if we had stayed with the royal family. Nonsense, okay? Absolute nonsense. There are members of the royal family whose children are not public figures, who aren't titled. There are members of the royal family who are not working royals and therefore are not followed around by paparazzi, and their children are not getting photographed all the time.
Prince Harry's expected trip to Birmingham is approaching, but the security question still appears unresolved. Reports suggesting major progress have collided with more cautious statements indicating that no confirmed change has taken place. Harry continues to argue that stronger protection is necessary for him to feel comfortable bringing Meghan and their children back to Britain. Critics continue asking whether he is demanding privileges connected to a royal role he voluntarily left behind. Then there are the wider controversies. Questions about Meghan's social media choices have created debates about privacy and consistency. Charity visits have triggered arguments over whether celebrity attention helps important causes or overshadows them. The Invictus Games continue to receive praise for supporting wounded, injured and sick service members and veterans, while critics question whether the celebrity spectacle surrounding the event has become too dominant. And behind all of that sits the biggest unresolved issue: family. King Charles and Harry remain separated by years of tension. Prince William and Harry's relationship appears deeply strained. Archie and Lilibet are growing up thousands of miles away from most of their royal relatives, while speculation continues about what connection they may eventually choose to have with that side of their family.
Once the king departs, I think the new king, I mean Prince William, he wants to slim down and clean up the monarchy. He's talking about a modern monarchy. Well, a modern monarchy can't include Prince Archie, Princess Lilibet. They've got to remove the titles.
There are no simple answers here. Harry and Meghan's supporters see a couple trying to protect their family, control their own lives, and survive an extraordinary level of public attention. Their critics see contradictions, questionable decisions, and a continuing effort to remain connected to the royal institution while publicly attacking parts of it. And as Harry's next UK appearance gets closer, the pressure surrounding these questions is only growing. Will the security dispute finally move toward a resolution? Could King Charles and Harry appear together around the Invictus Games? And will the next chapter bring genuine reconciliation or another wave of royal controversy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more celebrity drama. And don't leave yet. The next video is already waiting for you on the screen with even more celebrity controversies, unexpected twists and drama you will not want to miss. Click the video on your screen, keep watching, and I'll see you on the next one.